The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Robert Tan. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian stocks rose early Friday as U.S. Treasury yields eased after a rocky week. This is due to worries in the bond market over mounting U.S. government debt. Japan's Nikkei 225 edged up by 0.41%, while Australia's ASX 200 rose 0.14%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng gained 0.58%, and India's Nifty led the region with a strong 0.83% increase. Indonesia's JKSE also saw a modest gain of 0.36%. South Korea's Kospi is meanwhile flat with a downward bias, while Taiwan's TAIEX dropped 0.35%. In the currency market, the US dollar weakened against several Asian currencies, slipping 0.37% to the yen and falling 0.57% against the South Korean won. It also declined 0.52% versus the Thai baht and dropped 0.26% against the Singapore dollar. In contrast, the greenback is flat with a slight uptick against the Hong Kong dollar. Meanwhile, the Australian dollar strengthened against the US dollar, rising 0.36%. Commodity and cryptocurrency markets showed mixed trends. Gold prices rose by 0.57%. In contrast, oil prices declined across the board, with West Texas Intermediate crude falling 0.74%, Brent crude down 0.70%, and Dubai crude slipping 0.34%. This is due to expectations that the OPEC Plus group of oil exporters may decide on another increase in output at their next meeting. And in the crypto space, Bitcoin edged down 0.31%, while Ethereum posted a solid gain of more than 2%. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. retains his economic managers. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin says Marcos has retained Trade Secretary Maria Cristina Roque, Finance Secretary Ralph Recto, and Department of Economy, Planning and Development Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. He also retained Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman and Presidential Advisor for Investment Economic Affairs Secretary Frederick Go. Bersamin says the 5 individuals will continue their service to the Filipinos, as he assures they are sincere and dedicated to their sworn duties. This comes after Marcos ordered courtesy resignations of the cabinet secretaries to recalibrate his administration following the midterm polls.
Itong lima na ito ay magpapatuloy sa kanilang panunungkulan, paninilbihan sa ating taong bayan, at makakaasa kayo na sila naman ay sincero o dedicated sa kanilang sinumpaang katungkulan.
One of the biggest business groups in the country lauded the current economic cluster of the Marcos administration for engaging in its discussions with stakeholders, something they deem crucial to effectively push reforms in the business sector.
One of the advantages we have is with this administration and their political style, as I said, is that they engage and they listen. And let's use that.
Makati Business Club Executive Director Apong Pin also pointed out that those who are on the economic team are individually qualified to be there. On that note, they are hoping President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will retain them in their post amid his call for a bold reset of the cabinet.
They're not political appointees. They've been appointed on merit. These are guys who know what they're doing. They're pros, right? They're people that we would have endorsed for the position. Let's engage. Let's work together. Let's get these things done.
Malacanang clarifies President Bongbong Marcos' decision to call for courtesy resignations from his cabinet is part of an effort to weed out underperforming officials. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says the president's bold reset is focused on performance and urgency and stresses that government programs and services will continue without disruption despite the ongoing cabinet shakeup. The move comes on the heels of a disappointing midterm election for the administration's senatorial slate, which Malacanang acknowledges as a signal for change. A majority of the president's cabinet secretaries have since complied and submitted their courtesy resignations.
The people have spoken and they have expect results. Not politics, not excuses. We hear them and we will act. The request for courtesy resignations is aimed at giving the President the elbow room to evaluate the performance of each department and determine who will continue to serve in line with his administration's recalibrated priorities. Mananatili sila sa kanilang posisyon. Siguro ito yung tamang panahon para ipakita nila na dapat sila manatili sa kanilang posisyon. Pero kapag nakita po talaga ng Pangulo na hindi mo deserve ang iyong posisyon, you will be out.
The legal battle over U.S. tariff policy takes center stage as the Court of International Trade holds its first hearing on a multi-state lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs. A three-judge panel heard arguments from a dozen U.S. states seeking to block the implementation of Trump's April 2 tariff order. Oregon's Attorney General argued that the president misused the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law intended to limit, not expand, executive authority on trade.
We have amazing attorneys here at the Oregon Department of Justice, and we are very confident in our arguments, and it went very well today.
The Trump administration is now facing at least 7 lawsuits linked to its tariff strategy, which could affect global supply chains, exporters, and emerging markets like the Philippines. Meanwhile, a sweeping move from Washington, the Trump administration revokes Harvard University's authority to enroll international students, sparking concerns across global education and immigration circles. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has terminated Harvard's certification under the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, effectively stripping the university of its ability to accept foreign students. The decision means existing international students must transfer to other schools or face loss of their legal status. The action follows Harvard's refusal to turn over the conduct records of foreign students requested by the Department of Homeland Security last month. DHS accuses Harvard of allowing anti-American agitators on campus and failing to protect Jewish students, claiming the university has become a platform for pro-terrorist elements. It also says Harvard hosted a trained Chinese paramilitary members as recently as 2024, a charge the university strongly denies. In a statement, Harvard describes the decision as unlawful and politically motivated, warning it will cause serious harm to its community and damage America's global standing in higher education. For many in the Philippines, where Harvard remains a top destination for the country's brightest students and executives, the move raises new questions about U.S. policy uncertainty and the future of international academic exchange. Meanwhile, China condemns U.S. reciprocal tariffs during a high-level meeting at the World Trade Organization in Geneva, calling it a threat to global trade stability. In a statement during the WTO's Second General Council meeting, China warns that the tariffs undermine the multilateral trading system and weaken the global economy. It argues that the measures hurt developing countries and urges members to defend the WTO's core values against unilateralism and protectionism. China also calls for restructuring global trade and supply chains through lower barriers, mutual respect, and efforts to identify new trade growth areas. A deadly shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington prompts federal charges after 2 Israeli embassy workers were killed in what U.S. officials describe Palestine while being taken into custody. Rodriguez now faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder, murder of foreign officials, causing death with a firearm, and discharging a weapon in a crime of violence.
Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital. And we're going to continue to investigate this as a hate crime and a crime of terrorism. and we will add additional charges as the evidence warrants. So this charging today is the initial charge. Remember, we're less than 24 hours from the crime itself.
The attack heightens tensions amid growing geopolitical strains in the Middle East and comes as governments worldwide evaluate embassy security, diplomatic engagements, and the spillover risk of international conflicts. ASEAN leaders gather in Malaysia this May 26 to 27 with artificial intelligence, U.S. tariff hikes, and the civil war in Myanmar set to dominate the agenda at the 46th ASEAN Summit. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is expected to support a regional position against retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods and reinforce calls for a peaceful resolution to the ongoing Myanmar crisis. The summit will also tackle AI governance and cross-border digital transformation with a growing focus on how emerging technologies impact regional competitiveness and security. Foreign Affairs Deputy Assistant Secretary Dominic Imperial confirms that talks on a code of conduct with China in the South China Sea will continue, with ASEAN eyeing a final agreement by 2026. President Marcos is set to join 9 leadership sessions and hold bilateral meetings with Laos, Kuwait, and Vietnam, with trade, energy, and migrant worker issues on the table. A verdict is expected on Friday for several robbers who stole from billionaire celebrity Kim Kardashian. The suspects robbed Kardashian at gunpoint in her Paris hotel room in 2016. They ran away with jewelry worth millions of dollars. Kardashian testified in court on May 13. She recalled how the suspects bound her with zip ties and duct tape before taking her jewelry. 9 men and 1 woman are being tried by the criminal court. 5 of them face armed robbery and kidnapping charges and potentially risk being sentenced to life imprisonment. The others are charged with complicity in the heist or the unauthorized possession of a weapon. We're taking a short break. The biggest business stories from around the country are up next. You're watching Business Brief. Amid online uproar over forest loss in Isabela, a mining firm at the center of the controversy released a statement. More details with Sujin Kim in Pasig City. Go ahead, Sujin.
Robert, portions of the Sierra Madre mountain range in Dinapigue, Isabela, appear to be rapidly balding, a development now being linked to mining activity in the area. In a viral social media post by the Dagupan Information Office, aerial imagery from Google Maps show widespread land clearing, said to be located within the jurisdiction of Dinapigue, an area where active mining operations are underway. From Google Maps, large brown patches can be seen in the midst of what used to be a continuous green canopy in Dinapigue. These areas, the post claims, are now mining zones. According to the local mayor, the Dinapigue Mining Corporation, or DMC, has been operating in the area for years under a 25-year mining contract. He insists the operations are legitimate with all necessary permits from the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. But the photos sparked public outcry, with concerns that the mining activities may be eating into one of the country's last remaining forest strongholds. In response, Dinapigue Mining released a statement emphasizing that their operations are entirely outside the boundaries of the Sierra Madre Natural Park. The company stressed that their mining site, highlighted in red, lies outside the green zone designated as the Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park. DMC maintains that it adheres to a long-term environmental strategy and that stakeholder consultations have been conducted to ensure social and ecological safeguards. DMC cites its ongoing reforestation programs, with over 600,000 seedlings planted as of Q1 this year, as well as its commitment to hiring locally, including indigenous people who now comprise 72% of its workforce. And those are latest updates from Pasig City. Back to you, Robert.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Sani Angara plans to revive the Adopt a School program as part of efforts to tackle the classroom shortage in public schools. In an interview with the Bilyonaryo News Channel's Trade Talks, Angara also expressed hopes of providing more laptop computers to public school teachers.
A very peculiar law to DepEd is and not at DepEd but TESDA, to the education sector, is itong Adopt a School program. Companies are allowed to ay pwedeng mag-deduct ng 150% of the value of their donation from their taxable income. Sometimes when I talk to some of our partners, they forget or they don't know that may ganong programa. So I think it's incumbent upon DepEd to revive interest in this. Because it's a win-win.
The education chief said they are in the final stages of reforming the high school curriculum. But on Thursday, Angara submitted his courtesy resignation in line with President Marcos' directive to all cabinet members. With that development, it remains unclear if these plans will move forward. Even after submitting his courtesy resignation following calls from President Bongbong Marcos amongst his cabinet secretaries, Transport Chief Vince Dizon isn't slowing down. His agency is busy on cracking down irregularities and cleaning up the transportation system. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga gives us the details.
Seryoso kami dito. Baka iniisip ng iba yung mga ginagawang mga suspension ng lisensya, show cause order, revocation, ngayon lang yan. Hindi. Habang nandito kami sa kwestong to, ang kabilin-bilin ng Pangulo, go after all of them.
The DOTR isn't messing around. Secretary Vince Dizon says they're cracking down for real and it's not just a one-time campaign. Under direct orders from PBBM, they're going after all forms of corruption and negligence in the transport system. As part of this cleanup, the DOTR and the LTO are fixing long-standing issues, including going after fixers and driving schools that are breaking the rules.
We have already suspended, sir, around 107 driving schools. Just in the last 2 weeks, nakukulit na audit trail ko namin yan in various regions nationwide.
The driving schools are located in Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Metro Manila. According to the LTO, these schools were skipping crucial requirements like making sure applicants actually show up for their training or follow the proper steps for the theoretical driving course. Now, the LTO says it's full speed ahead on making the licensing process smoother and faster.
There are reforms in place that soon we will announce na talagang gumaganda na po ang ating servisyo. Yung mga pagkakamali, ito kulang nung nakaraan. Tinatakpan po natin yan, dinalagay natin sa ayos.
And while they're fixing the system, they're also going after those who are taking advantage of it online. The DOTR, LTO, and the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group have presented one of the suspects they caught selling fake driver's licenses and PWD IDs on the internet, a violation of the Cybercrime Prevention Act.
Kung ikaw yung gabeta ng lisensya na hindi dadaan sa requisitos ng pagkuha ng lisensya, lalong-lalo na yung practical exam, malaking problema. At isa yan sa mga malaking problemang kailangan natin ayusin.
Yung ating nahuling suspect ay makakalabas na po siya pagka siya ay nakapagpiyansa. So, 10 counts of falsified documents po yung ating naikaso at bawat count po na naikaso natin ay meron siyang 36,000 pesos na piyansa.
As for the bigger picture, Secretary Dizon says the crackdown won't stop anytime soon, and he's asking the public to help out. He encourages social media users and the media to tag transport agencies whenever they spot anything fishy, so authorities can validate and take action. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP signals another rate cut on June 19. BSP Governor Eli Romolona Jr. says the central bank has plenty of room to slash the interest rate due to low inflation rate. Remolona adds the BSP may deliver 2 more 25 basis points rates cuts for 2025. Latest data from the Philippine Statistics Authority shows headline inflation slowed to 1.4% in April from 1.8% in March due to slower price increase in food and non-alcoholic beverages. The Philippines is set to seal its first ever free trade deal with a Middle Eastern country next month, marking a strategic shift in the country's trade and investment ties beyond Asia and the West. The agreement, known as the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement or CEPA, will be finalized with the United Arab Emirates following a final legal review. It covers trade in goods and services, investments, customs procedures, and cooperation for small and medium enterprises. Negotiations started in 2022, and officials described the deal as a historic milestone that could open new markets for Philippine exporters and attract more capital from the Gulf region. In the lead-up to the signing, a delegation of 17 companies from Dubai is set to visit Manila, eyeing potential investments in the hospitality and energy sectors. For the Philippine business community, the CEPA is expected to boost trade diversification, strengthen economic diplomacy, and create new growth opportunities in the Middle East. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, launches a new reform guidebook to streamline regulations and improve the Philippines' standing in the global business arena. Called the Philippine Ease of Doing Business Reform Guidebook, the document serves as a medium-term blueprint from 2025 to 2028, focused on modernizing government services through digitalization, especially for business registration and renewal. Beyond entry of private firms, the guidebook also tackles themes like international trade, taxation, dispute resolution, business insolvency, and market competition, all considered crucial to boosting economic growth and attracting investments. Over 13 million passengers flew through the Ninoy Aquino International Airport in the first quarter, close to a 16% jump compared to the same period last year. Domestic passenger volume was at 6.9 million, while international passenger traffic was at 6.13 million, according to the Manila International Airport Authority. MIAA also recorded more flights in the same period at 73,098. New NAIA Infra Corporation is in the process of upgrading facilities and almost double the airport's present capacity of 35 million passengers per annum. Dive tourism brought over 73 billion pesos for the Philippines in 2023, nearly double the previous year's earning. The country now has around 120 dive spots, helping boost its status as Asia's top dive destination. To meet growing demand, the government is adding hyperbaric chambers in key locations like Boracay and Cebu, according to Tourism Promotions Board Chief Operating Officer Margarita Nograles. The chambers are used for treating decompression sickness among divers. The Philippines also gained nearly 280 million pesos in sales leads from recent dive expos in South Korea and Singapore. For the 6th year in a row, the country was named the world's leading dive destination at the World Travel Awards. Philippine shares bouncing back to the 6,400 level in the final trading day of the week. The PSE index ended higher by nearly 2% to close at 6,413, finishing the day as the best performer in Asia. Among the day's sectoral indices, only mining and oil ended in the red, with financials rising the most at more than 2%. Advancers outpaced decliners 109 to 82. Total value turnover reached 6.3 billion pesos. Week on week, the PSEI fell by 0.8%. Majority of the day's most active stocks ended in the green, with SM Prime Holdings rising the most at more than 3%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 55.57 against the greenback, strengthening from previous close of 55.59. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News channel. See you then.